combine small town roots with business savvy, and you've got the Rural Rundown podcast. We're sharing our marketing and branding strategies, tips, and tricks that rural businesses can use to educate, inspire, and entertain their customers, and to help you make sales and hit profit goals. So what does it take to go from your mom is your only fan to famous in a small town? Tune in and listen up as we feature business owners and organizations that are doing big things in their community and creating opportunities for generations to come. Hello, it is another episode of the Rural Rundown podcast with your guests, Brenna Ramson and Rachel Eikens. Rachel is joining me from Minnesota today. How are you?
I'm good. We are just off a weekend we got a little bit of rain, which has kind of been a miracle.
Good.
We weren't here, so I think we have to leave to make the rain come, supposedly. But tell me where you are, because I told you it looks like you're in the middle of nowhere.
It does look like I'm in the middle of nowhere. We are sitting exactly on the state line of Wyoming and Utah right now. And we had to whip over real quick where we had service to do our episode today, which was a great conversation with Maggie O'Connor now. She used to be Maggie Vanderleen. And Rachel and I both know her from very different seasons of life, which I love. So we had a very fun conversation about small town, hometown life and business, building a business, what that looks like, and kind of what rural communities look like when they come into play with your business. What was your favorite part of today's episode, Rachel?
I really liked when Maggie was kind of telling the story of how she started to where she is now and how she kind of developed her own style when it came to the actual editing and taking of the photos, but then also just like presenting herself as her own brand. I thought that was really cool. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. And it's that business journey that I appreciate she let us in on.
Absolutely. And she, also sticking with like the business talk, she talked about creating a community, and we talked about how small this world really is when it comes to the networks of people that and how that kind of helps your business grow and change and evolve in different ways. But yeah, overall, it was just a really good conversation, and definitely enjoyed her letting us in on her business and what that looks like.
Me too. Let's hear a little more from Maggie now.
Why don't you just start off and kind of tell our listeners where you're from and what your business is about?
Yeah, so I am from Beresford, South Dakota, which is wedged right in between Sioux Falls and Sioux City. I grew up on a farm. We also had a feedlot. We still have a farm and a feedlot. I am trying to find a way to transition into somehow being a part of the farm, which is kind of hard to do. I'm sure, as everybody knows, there's only so many roles, but I'm still a part of the farm, just not actively in it. But I reside in my hometown of Beresford, and I have a 4-year-old and a husband and my 2 cats, Opal and Eve. So
love it.
Opal and Eve have been with you for a long time, haven't they? Aren't they from they were in college too, right?
Yeah, Eve was my first child. She's on my bed sitting right now, Opal. We adopted her 2 years ago from the Brookings Humane Society, which was so fun because remember when we volunteered there?
Yes, I do remember that.
Yeah, so Brenna and I volunteered with Dakota, me, Brenna, and I don't even remember the other person.
Me neither. That was for a leadership class.
Oh, was it Andrea? I can't remember who it was, but it was, I was the random one on the leg there, which was fine, but yeah, we had to volunteer at the Humane Society, and then I went back and adopted a cat a couple years later.
Oh my
God. That's
That's
awesome.
so sweet.
And so you are a photographer, and so tell me, because you don't have a studio space anymore, but tell me a little bit about what it's like to run a business in a small town, especially the town that you grew up in.
So I am going to give you the honest answer to this. Most of my business does not come from people in my town, and it's frustrating. A lot of people where I grew up and I live now don't want to pay my prices. And it's discouraging, but it's okay because I don't take offense to it. But just being able to be in my hometown and have all my picture spots, because most people do come to me, especially for senior pictures. It's really nice, and just I'm so comfortable here, and I am comfortable with everybody. But from a business standpoint, it's frustrating because people in small towns generally don't really want to pay a ton of money for things. There's, and that's okay because people prioritize what they want to pay money for, and that's more than okay. But I sub at the school, which is fun, and it's like kind of my way to give back. And it's just because I need subs really bad, and I enjoy it. I enjoy like giving back, but it just, yeah, it'd be kind of nice if I could get a little more support from town. But from the whole small town aspect, it's wonderful because the business isn't great, but people are still, I go to the grocery store and they saw my pictures from, Arizona, Illinois, and they like are so excited to tell me that they saw them on Facebook and they're beautiful. But yeah, so it's kind of got its highs and lows, but the highs definitely outweigh the lows.
How have you gone about booking yourself out and finding those people then to photograph?
Oh gosh. Um, to be transparent, I have a really big network of people. And so a lot of when I'm traveling is people I know. I have traveled quite a bit for people I don't know, but a lot of my travel just goes back to 4-H and FFA and people I met way back in the day. My favorite wedding I did last year, I met Landry. What's her name? She got married outside of Austin, Texas, and I met her while judging my sophomore year of college. And so it's super little things like that have happened in my life where I've met people that's just let me travel all over the country. So I don't know, it's pretty incredible. And I have booked people just through Instagram and Facebook, but gosh, I think it's so much more fun when you have a personal connection and get to go somewhere. Like I just booked a wedding in Maryland, and I did Demi Power and Nick Publiner's wedding in Ohio last year, and they just love the pictures so much. They picked their day according to my schedule, and that just was so cool. And it was a personal connection because they're good friends with the couple I had done, and yeah, I don't know, it was really cool. So I would personal connection. So just talk to everybody. Like just talk. They may not like you, but chances of you seeing them again, you won't see them again. So just talk. It's led me to a lot of opportunity in a career.
Yeah, I love that. I had that written down. I was like, I know you're in 4-H because that's how I knew you, Lincoln County 4-H Achievement Days and FFA. But I just wanted to and you kind of talked about it, but just how that has influenced your life and kind of, what the opportunities it has brought you. So that's really cool to hear that.
Yeah, and I'm really thankful for that because without the two and collegiate judging, I wouldn't have. I think I definitely would have a base, but I wouldn't have the opportunities and experiences that I have gotten to experience with my business.
So cool.
I feel the same way. And sometimes it's not the people that you have the connection with or that you've already made the network with, but it's like those second or third connections, right? So you have a connection with somebody personally, but they have a friend who knows you through them, and then your network just grows exponentially. That's what I've seen in my life too, is that no matter where you are, and this is truly what it feels like anymore, is that it's no matter where I am, it's I run into somebody that knows somebody, or somehow we have a connection. The world truly is just so small.
Mm-hmm. No, it definitely is. And especially in the livestock industry.
Yes.
And
I would completely agree.
And I love the Western wedding industry. It's super fun, but the livestock industry is where my heart is, and it is where my heart will always be. And those connections are so much deeper, and it's such a small world. You're right.
I kind of want to hit on the small town mentality again. I had this advice, I guess I would say, from somebody recently. We were talking about what I offer to clients in terms of branding, and she called me up, and she's worked for agencies for 10 plus years in big places, Nashville, Raleigh, just big agencies. And she's like, what you do is so phenomenal because like you don't just do one thing, like you do so many, and people have to go through the bad boyfriends to like get to the good one, and you're the good one. And she's like, but the crappy thing about my clientele, which is like rural business owners and people from small towns, is that they don't, like a lot of them don't have many boyfriends. They don't have a lot of those crappy boyfriends. And I feel like maybe that hits on the same thing you're talking about too, is like maybe sometimes it's not even the price, but people don't see, there's not that competition for them to have all those bad boyfriends or to have all these experiences with photographers, that they're finally like, oh, Maggie's the one, and this is why she charges what she does, because she does all these things better or different, or offers these things better or different than other people do. And I think especially you do a lot of seniors, but being a wedding photographer too, like for the most part, how many times do people get married? So it's hard to be like, the next time, that's who I'm gonna hire.
No, I absolutely love how that's worded. I think that's a really great way to put it, because I'm not harking on my hometown at all. I don't expect them to support me at all, because you can't expect anything in life. And they do. Everyone is super excited, like I said, to tell me about what they've seen, but I think that's an amazing way to put it.
I did too. And it really kind of put it in perspective for me to be like, you're right. So then how do I, instead of me just being like, oh, like I'm doing something wrong and I'm like not marketing things, it's like, how do I show people that like I am the good boyfriend, and like here's the steps, or here's why I do things differently. So that like it was kind of like a light switch moment for me to like change things up or think about things differently. And then when you were brought that up, you talking about your hometown, I'm like, yeah, that makes total sense, right? Because it's just like a different way of thinking about things.
Yeah, no, I agree. I like that.
I would love
Oh, you go.
I would love to talk about your traveling. I know that we just kind of talked about it a little bit. You said maybe traveling so much like isn't in the future of your photography business. But maybe tell me a little bit about like why the travel, what role does that play in your business? And for other people that are looking to get to that point to travel and make money while doing their business, what pieces of advice do you have for people?
So when it comes to traveling, and I love to traveling, everybody loves to travel, and it's amazing. And you're only here for so long, so get out and see the world, because I don't want to be on my deathbed or get to heaven and be like, wow, I didn't do all of these things, but I had the opportunity to, but I chose not to. I would definitely, the biggest thing I would say, and some people might call me crazy and that's fine, but there's just things I would do for cheaper, or sub travel to like give someone a better price for you to have the opportunity to go and do it. And don't obviously pay out of pocket for things, but if you wash, even like let's say you have the chance to go to Colorado for a shoot or Wyoming for a shoot from here, and it's going to be close, like cutting it close, like just take it, because people are going to be like, oh my gosh, you do travel, you went here, it's amazing. Just make sure you're not losing money, but just know that while you're getting started, you might have to pay a little out of pocket to go and do that. But that's really how I think you need to build up, because you can't just expect to be like, yeah, I travel. Here's some pictures at Palisades or, Newton Hills. For like Rachel and I, but no, people don't care. Like people want to see the beautiful pictures in the desert. They want to see the Rocky Mountains. They want to see the East or West Coast. And so if you have a chance to go and it could wash, just take it, go for it, make it work, and then go off of those posts and build up from there.
What would you say is the best part of your job?
I love making people feel good about themselves. I can't even tell you the amount of times people are like, I look like that? Oh my gosh, I never like myself in pictures. And it makes me so happy, because we all know what it's like to not feel like you look the best or not feel confident in yourself. And knowing that I'm making these people feel so good in their pictures makes me really happy, because it's just so important to feel good about yourself. And it's hard to, especially in today's world. It's so hard to feel good about yourself. And yeah, but like there's all these sorts of things people are like, who cares? Positivity is and that, but no, it's still hard. And so when people can see like what they look like on the back of my camera and they get excited, that like lights me up. Like seeing them light up lights me up because I'm like, like I'm so glad. Yeah, I don't
I
know.
would
It's
love,
corny, but I really like that. It's just like heartfelt, and that's so like Hallmark movie. But oh my gosh, like just like see, like especially so you get to shoot. A lot of people, especially I work with a lot of farmers and rangers. They never take pictures, you guys, and they're so awkward. But then you like show them, especially the guys, and they're like, "Oh, I look good," and then they get into it. It's so much fun. Once they see like, "Oh, I do look good," like, "Yes, you do. You look amazing." Now, like, get out there. So it's fun.
I would love to hear a little bit about how you kind of found your editing style or even your shooting style, what that process looked for you, and why it's important to find a style that's uniquely you and your business.
So when I first started off, I was using Tribe Archipelago. Is that how you say? I think that's how you say that. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? The Tribe
Mm-hmm.
sets. And they just looked like everyone else's pictures. And they weren't, I don't think, like, when I look back, people like really boosted my ego, but woof, I don't know if they should have been because I don't know. And it's so much trial and error. And I was so determined to look like everybody else. I wanted my, because I saw these beautiful pictures and I wanted to look like them. But no. So my photos I would describe as like warm and moody and colorful is what I would tell you. And that's like me as a person. So like photography's art. So put you into the art. Don't do something because other people are doing it or you like what it looks like. Put like make sure you are putting yourself into it. Like that is part of taking pictures. Like it's art. And so just make sure when you're doing something, you're doing it for you and not just for the latest trend when it comes to your style. Because trends die, but you're here. So make it last.
I feel like in the creative world, trends could die so quickly too.
They do. And I struggle because and you also have to remember everybody has a different style themselves of what they like. So there has to be 100 different styles because everybody likes different stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we're all the same, then that doesn't really do anybody much good because people all want different styles. So just make sure you're yourself. That's probably the best thing I could say.
Yeah, I like that advice. And I think it even goes back to the conversation we were having with like when you find the customers that are attracted to you and what you do, like they're there for a reason because they come to you and they see what they relate to you and what the work you do. So I think sometimes it's hard when we want to book out our businesses, but we also have to like trust that the people who are right for us will come to us. And I think like your aesthetic draws those people in. And it's totally, I mean, I don't know you that well, but I feel like when I look at that, I'm like, I know it's Maggie,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I love that when people and I will say I do try to be different, and why I kind of started to change and turn more into myself is my pictures were still a little bit different from everybody, but I just felt like people were like started to copy me because you could look at a picture and tell it was mine. So then I was like, we're doing my own thing. And I think my style now is kind of hard for people to copy, which I'm happy with. But yeah, you just really have to like make it authentic, and part of art, you have to like, art is you, so make it you.
Yeah. I think it kind of goes along with the lifestyle, but Rachel and I were talking before we were recording this. Rachel's like, sometimes when I'm looking for like outfit inspo, she's like, I go to Maggie's feed. And, a lot of times I know you do styled shoots, so it's not always you styling these people, but it's just the people, like you can see who your ideal clients are in your pictures. Like you can see like, yes, those are Maggie's people. Those are the clients that are like showing up for your work. And but you have done style shoots before, you've put on workshops. Tell us a little bit maybe what the education part has looked like in your business, like learning, growing, and then like turning around and hosting workshops and putting things on. Kind of walk us through that process.
So education's a really funny thing in the creative world because you can invest a couple $1,000s into something and it is affordable. It's not, worth anything. Or you could spend a couple $100 and find someone who just is starting and you just caught them at the right time and you learn so much money. So I've wasted a lot of money. I think we all probably have, though, just because you think you're getting something so good, so valuable, but it's not good. And it's really frustrating, but it is so important to invest in yourself. Yeah, there's just some things out there, and I'm trying to explain how to say this, but there's just make sure you do your research. And I would look for people who have been photographers for a while you're doing your research, and not people who are just starting, because some stuff to people who are just starting, they're gonna be like, this was great, but it's, to me, basic knowledge. So implementing everything kind of I've learned and know into workshops. Gosh, my first styled shoot was in Lubbock. It was good. It turned out totally fine, but like everybody canceled on me the week of. It was horrible. I had like 10 girls who were expecting, and it was fine, and we had so much fun. And one of the girls that attended is now like my photographer bestie. But you got to be ready for curveballs. I feel like, especially with creatives, like we're all curveballs because we're all creative type B, just like hanging out, and so that was a whirlwind. Workshop wise, eventually down the road would really like to do something of more, maybe not even photography super related, but just a business workshop and just like a hangout, get to know other creative workshop. Because I think at this point in my career, there's a lot I need to learn, but my biggest issue is everything's free on the internet. And so, especially TikTok, those 1 to 3 minute videos, you can learn so much. And it sounds so silly, but it's hard to pay thousands of dollars to go to these workshops and feel like you didn't come away with anything, when you can sit on TikTok for an hour on the right side of, if you're on the right side of TikTok, and like learn so much information. But the biggest thing I need as being self-employed is having like a community of people is like priceless. Like you cannot put a price on it. To have like people who are, have the same feelings and emotions and go through the same things as you, that is the best part, I think, of being self-employed, is you have these people all over the country or maybe the world that you can just relate to. And that is something I think you need to invest in, is just like, community. I don't even know. I know there's things out there for it, just like retreats. Retreats, that's the word I'm looking for. So that's definitely where I would like to eventually go when it comes to workshops and such.
Absolutely. Have either one of you heard of Rising Tide?
I have.
Yeah. So there was one that I got involved in the Black Hills, and I had met a lot of people at Rising Tide meetings, but then also I had met people like out in real life that turns out they were big parts of Rising Tide. And that is a place that I definitely feel hits the nail on the head with exactly what you're talking about, where it's like education about business and like putting out information about like, filing your taxes or booking clients or, writing professional emails and that kind of stuff. But then you're getting together and meeting people in your community who are also business owners. And like you said, I think there's so much power in connecting with people who have the same feelings and thoughts. Like there's so many times, actually, to be completely honest, like I think that's how this podcast started. We, with Rachel and I, we made this like vow to each other that every other week or once a month, I think it started once a month, we were getting together just to like check in and being like, how's it going? How's business? How's life? And then, towards the end of last year, towards the end of 2020, it's like, what if we did a podcast and we invited other people into our conversations and, talked about their businesses too? Like, I really do. I think there's something powerful in having a network and a community of people who are like, can feel the same things, even if it's not specifically the same exact business, but business owners, small town people. And you're like, yeah, like I go through that thing where I only have 800 people in my community and not all 800 people are going to be my clients. And that's okay. here's how I'm going to get clients other people or other places. And just kind of like walking through that, bouncing ideas off of people. So yeah, definitely. I love that. And I'm all for the retreats and just like having that time to connect with other business people.
Yeah, I think it's a super vital part of business, especially the thing people don't talk about being self-employed is the loneliness. And being lonely, and like I said, I love subbing at the school, not because I want to go hang out with high schoolers all day, because it's the only interaction I get besides my daughter, my parents, my husband, and the checkers at the grocery store,
Yeah.
and my clients. And it's just not the same. I don't miss an 8 to 5. I miss my coworkers though. I really miss my coworkers. So yeah, it's just important to have those people in your back pocket all the time.
Yeah, you were 100%. I was going to say that it can be lonely being self-employed. And when you are the only employee, you own the business, but you're the employee, you're doing everything. And all the time you're being resourceful and figuring things out. But yes, you never have that other person to be like, hey, can you help me? Or just to relate to. And I think too, not the world changed with COVID, like lots of people are working from home now and understanding that. But when you're kind of like an OG who's been doing this for years, it's you like need somebody.
And even, I don't know, and I'm sure Brenna with Ollie, like it's a little different because he is self-employed too, but like my husband doesn't get it. It's so hard to explain to people who don't do it. Even, like my dad and brother farm, my dad goes to coffee. Like he still, they still go out. They go out to eat every day pretty much and go to the bar and for dinner and stuff. And so it's so hard to explain to people who don't do it because it's so dang lonely. But having those friends, all over, it helps a lot. It helps tremendously. So, and then you can always have someone to bounce ideas off of and just talk about business highs and lows, because there's a lot of business highs and lows, and it's easier to talk to somebody who absolutely understands what you're saying.
Yes.
It's funny that you mention it because I feel that with my dad. My dad and I have a really close relationship, and he's been a farmer his whole life. And so there's so many times where he wants to like give advice or chime in. And I'm like, it kind of like blows my mind how like off base it kind of is. Cause I'm like, well, technically you're self-employed and have been forever, but it's like, it's not the same. Like what, like doing business that way is really different than like doing business how I'm doing business, or like, the creative side of things too, right? Where it's like, okay, like I understand that you're like what you're trying to say and the advice you're trying to give, but like that's not how it works, or it's not going to work out. But the flip side of the coin is like, yeah, Oli is a creative business owner as well, which like some days is really great and other days is like we can't get on the same page. And the hardest thing I think for our relationship is that he's been a big business owner for like twice as long as I have. So he is like on a completely different level than where my business is, which sometimes causes like, we live in the same household and so many things we do are the same. But like this trip, for instance, like we had to go to Wyoming for a funeral yesterday. Before the funeral, like I had to work, but he's like at this place in business where he can take the weekend off and take 4 days and not look at emails and nobody ever cares. And I'm like, no, like I have to be in my emails, and I'm at this place where I'm still grinding and I'm still like, going through the hard part of business. So that would probably be our I don't know, I guess like struggle or hard thing, where it's like I still feel lonely sometimes even though I live with a creative business owner, because it's like we're at totally different places.
Well, yeah, and yeah, it's just hard to explain if you don't go through it yourself. But yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Maggie, I'm kind of turning to a different part of our conversation here, but I want to pick your brain. So I have a lot of clients who I think could benefit from like a photography session. Somebody, professional photographer, actually coming out and taking pictures of their staff or what they do. What would your advice be to those businesses who are looking for a photographer, like some questions they should ask or things they should consider before booking or scheduling something like that out for themselves?
So I think if you're looking for, what they do, are you talking for like social media posts and
Yep. Yes. Or, photos, nice photos that they can use across their brand, for their website, for social
Website,
media,
yeah.
flyers. I know that that's probably maybe different sessions, but they have that in their mind that they want to use photos for those reasons.
yeah, so I think that definitely obviously like the basics, like the business is going to have to look for someone who, depending on what they do, is comfortable with what they do, because like I mean, not everyone's going to be comfortable jumping into a pen of fat steers to do whatever. Obviously looking at like a time, making sure that's okay for publication, that obviously a lot of people actually don't know this, that the photographer does own the rights, like copyright, we know that, but if you're if they're making money off of your photos, it's stuff like that that they have to take into consideration, and the photographer needs to know ahead of time. If it's going to be making them money, then the photographer is obviously going to have to either charge a fee and sign away that, or be compensated somehow. And someone who meshes with them, I'd reach out to a few different people, because if you don't mesh with someone, it's so hard to work with them. And then from a photographer standpoint, I think it reverse can go into the same as you're advertising yourself. Make sure that you're advertising for pretty specifically what you want to do. So you're not getting into situations that you didn't really sign up for. And I think just being super transparent with each other is important, because sometimes we all have these ideas in our head, and then we get there, like the business might have this great idea, we should do this, and the photographer can't do that. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to a shoot and people are like directly in the sun, like, oh yeah, let's do this. I'm like, no, I don't think we can do that today. Like, just little things like that. And so I think just being super transparent with what their ideas, what they're looking for, what it's going to be used for, what their budget is, and knowing the business needs to know it's probably going to be an investment. You can't just expect to go and pay $300-400. I mean, some people probably do, but that's it's an investment. You're investing in your business, in your company, and so just keep that in mind when you're looking for somebody.
I love that you bring up like the investment part, because there's a statistic that people can plan to spend it's like 10 to 20% of their annual income on branding, and I totally attribute like photography to being part of that branding. In a lot of what I do for my clients, photography, website, social media, your messaging, even what you're writing in a lot of places, that all rolls into your brand. You can So when you look at that, right, like if somebody costs $2,000 or $4,000 for a branding package and a website, like it's funny to me how people limit themselves to think like, do they really not think that they're going to make that much in their business that year? Or like people don't look at it as an investment of something that can make them money. I think that's what we find in rural America too. Like this could totally be a stereotype, but this is what I find with so many of my clients, is that they don't see the value in investing in photography, logo, website, things like that, because it has a big price tag. Well, it has a big price tag. I can't afford that. Why would somebody ever pay that? Like da 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 da. And it's like, well, it's an investment, because building a website, having these images, that's what makes you money. Like, and I think that disconnect is there for a lot of business owners, especially first time or small business owners. And actually, I think where I see it the most is like long-term business owners, where maybe it was handed down from their family and they've been in this business for years and years and years. I feel like they're the people that are like least willing to invest or to like expand.
Yes, I think that's a great. I wish people understood the value, and where I'd really like to move in is to like quarterly branding photos and content for people to, do branding photos for 60, 90 days worth of content, and then planning that out for them. I don't think people understand how much farther ahead they would be with that, having consistent photos and taking, putting the investment into it. And it's really funny too, because these farmers and ranchers who are between like 20 and 40 live on their phones. Like, look at the Twitter farming community. Like, they're so funny. And now they're on TikTok and they're so funny. And so it is vital for businesses to be on there, because their farmers are and their ranchers are. And so social media isn't just it's the future. I mean, it's here, but it's not going anywhere. So it needs to, be invested into to see growth in your business.
Yeah,
for sure. I mean, this company that I'm going to be talking about, they're not necessarily like farmers, but they're a small business in a rural community, and they invest and always get staff photos every year or even more, kind of like what you're talking about. And like the payoff might seem weird to say, but like the posts, because I monitor the analytics that do the best, are always the posts about their staff when we feature them and talk about their work anniversaries, their birthdays. And it's crazy how much reach that gets. And you're like, oh, that's not telling anybody about our actual business, but it's showing that you care about your employees and their team. And that goes a long way too, beyond just the services side of it. So I think it's so important to invest in that, because you're building a brand of moreover what you stand for, what you value. And I think investing in, those types of things, it does have a big payoff.
Yeah, stock photos kill me a little bit every time.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Come on, like let's just even if someone wants to do like an hour session, just like I could whip a lot out in an hour. Like, let's get something that's yours up there, and it might feel expensive, but I promise you your engagement on a photo that is your compared to a stock photo is gonna be through the roof. Like, but
people can tell.
People will, be there, but right now it's like just such a weird spot in 2021 where, people want the old way, but the new way's here. So we're just meeting in the middle, trying to transition everyone over to that.
Yep.
People buy from people always. They never, they don't want to buy from businesses. They don't want to buy from corporations. People buy from people. And I always think that like your brand is an extension of you. So yeah, I love to see that too in branded photography, even if you're showcasing your product or what you do, but having you in the photo doing the thing or showcasing the product that like lines up with your brand, like your visual brand. You're always going to be further ahead.
Yep. I agree.
Rach, is there anything else you want to talk about today? Any other topics that we should cover?
I think I have one more question and I'm trying to figure out how to word it, but just in general, Maggie, what has been your favorite like memory throughout your business so far, if you can pick one? I know that's kind of a hard question, but.
Okay, so Brenna knows these people. I had a couple get married in Wickenburg, Arizona this last January, and Michael, he does video production stuff for rodeos, right, Brenna? Okay, got a mariachi band for like their wedding, and it was the most fun I have ever had in my life. Like, it was so cool. And there's probably like 150 people there. Everyone was like up and dancing and singing and drinking. And it was so cool. And I know that is probably not what you expected, but it was just the coolest, like most intimate, but fun, but just truly amazing moment in my job, like our career that I've ever done. It was so cool.
I love that.
Yeah, it was amazing. And yeah, that was probably the best memory I have. That was pretty sweet.
That's fun. I feel like that like wrapped everything up into one for you too, like travel and like good people. I always like, people are always like, who's my ideal client? And I'm like, good people. Like I just like down home people who are passionate about their businesses and like just want to live like, I don't know. So yeah, I think that's a very cool memory for you.
Yeah, I know. When people ask me that, I'm like, you're in love. You like to have a good time. You like beer. I like beer. I like to take pictures. Like, let's do this. That's kind of where I'm at with my ideal people. So,
if people want to find you or follow you on social media, where can they get in touch with you?
Yes, my Instagram is Maggie Mae Images, and my Facebook's Maggie Mae Images, and that's all I have right now. My website has been, it's there, but as I pivot my life right now, it's up there, but I definitely go to my Instagram first.
Absolutely. I think as a photographer too, like Instagram is really a testament to your work and what you have. And yeah, definitely. I recommend Maggie. We love her style. We were supposed to get branded photos from Maggie, and then my life went up in flames. So we, as creatives, I feel like we all kind of understand what that looks like in life. But yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Yes, thanks, ladies.
Thanks, Maggie.
Well, that's it for this episode of the Rural Rundown podcast.
Thanks for listening. You can always find us on social media at The Rural Rundown.
And if you really liked this episode, we would totally love it if you gave us a review and gave us a little rating.
It would mean so much to us. And for more small town roots and business savvy, catch us on the next one.